Hi there, I'm Judy Waters. Welcome to my channel. Here I bring you author interviews of ordinary people who had a story they had to share with the world. I also bring you short little writing prompts to get those creative juices going in your own brain so that you can write the stories for your generations to come. Because you know what? You do have a story to tell. So let me help you tell it. And today, I'm going to help you tell that by introducing you to another children's book author. Uh, I always tell people that your memoir is so important because not only to your family, but to the larger world around, things that you have grown through, things that you have learned. A lot of children's book authors got their information, got their their story from their own memoir, from what happened to them earlier in life. So let me introduce you to Mark McCraw by reading his bio first. Mark McCraw, a U.S. Air Force and Air Force Reserve disabled veteran, former educator, pastor, and award-winning children's author. Mark's career spans the classroom, ministry, corrections, nonprofit leadership, and higher education. He is deeply involved in organizations supporting literacy and veterans. With 12 published children's books, published in 3 anthologies, multiple audiobooks, and e-formats available across more than 22 countries, Mark's mantra is literacy, learning, and legacy. His first book, Did You Come Home for Lunch?, appeared at major book festivals including San Diego Festival of Books, Archway Publishing Company Conference in Times Square in New York, and the Miami Book Fair. His book, Nikolai Piccoli, even reached the top 10 bestsellers list in Tulsa World News in March 2024. Mark has received 5 first-place awards from the Veterans Administration National Creative Arts Festival locally, participated in numerous interviews and author panels, and shared stories with more than 1,000 students nationwide. Mark brings with him a passion for writing, genealogy, travel, and inspiring young leaders. Please help me welcome Mark McCraw. Hi, Mark. I'm so glad that you were able to meet with me today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Sure. And because we have so many questions and a limited time, I want to hop right into my questions. I'm going to have them over here, so from time to time, I'll be looking back and forth. So,
Okay.
the very first question, when did you get started writing and what encouraged you to write your very first book?
Well, I actually started around 2020. My first book took about 9 months to go through a publisher company and going through the different departments. And
Mhm.
and I had actually been interested in being an author ever since 15 years prior to that. So when I was a teacher's aide, so I saw a lot of authors coming and going to our school and stopped and asked questions, and then I just built these stories over the years and through children and grandchildren and my school experience as elementary school teacher and being in the military and all of that. So I just used a lot of those experiences that even I had as a child as well. So
Sure. Okay. So memoirs can be written in so many different formats. And I know I wanted to talk about your 3 books, even though I know you have 12 books and then you're in some anthologies. You've written quite a few children's
yes.
books. But I wanted to talk about your 3 mainly because they are more memoir related. So let's start with Brains Over Brawn. Um, can you share what inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, so here's Brains Over Brawn,
I love the
and
cover. That is so
thank you,
cute.
thank you very much. Yeah, Brains Over Brawn. What inspired me is that was actually a bullying incident that happened when I was in Florida. when I was younger, and I was in the fifth grade and moving to New Hampshire and moved to a rural community and got a lot of bullying because of my accent. I was pretty much chased up and down the hallway by several people, several children, and it was every day was just exhausting with having a lot of feeling sick and sick to my stomach, not wanting to go to school,
Oh my goodness.
not wanting to tell my teacher about it, not wanting to tell my mom about it, my dad, and and that kind of thing. Um, so what I did is in Brains Over Brawn, I made it where the book was about fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. When I was in fifth grade, of course, I was bullied, and then in the sixth grade, I started. Mom and dad were having some divorce issues and things like that, and things started going downhill. And I started, kind of being the bully in sixth grade, and that kind of thing. And then I went on to seventh and eighth, and got into a lot of fights and stuff like that. But after that, I kind of calmed down. After that, but what I tried to do in the book was, talk about of not only the bully but the person who's being bullied. I tried to use it from both sides of the coin, or different sides of the coin rather. And then in the back, I used some resources from stopbullying.gov, and so that the parents can go over with their child, about bullying. It also talks about being respectful and those kind of things. And I really think that I really enjoyed writing that.
Mm-hmm.
Really, because there's so much bullying going on anymore, and I wanted to make a difference in this theme. Now, what Brains Over Brawn did is the boy actually went on, which was me, which actually went on to do a spelling bee. So he started studying every single night, and he worked really hard on the spelling bee. It was fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, all going to the spelling bee. And so he just really studied really hard, and he actually beat out the fifth grade, the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth grade, and was getting ready to go on to regional championships when Dad said, "It's time to move back to Florida." So, and
Oh
I
my
had
goodness.
now when I was in Florida, I had actually left because of a hurricane. A hurricane had hit Florida, and then we left after the hurricane. And so I had gone through a lot, actually, moving up to the East Coast and all of that. So that's kind of how Brains Over Brawn came about.
Okay.
Was I wanted to share the experiences of what I dealt with, and that kind of thing, and using Marcus as a character.
Sure. Oh, very. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's gotten so rampant this year. I mean,
Hmm.
lately, the
Yes, it has.
recently. But so tell us about your other two books that are memoir related.
Okay, so the other book that I had, which was my very first book, is called "Did You Come Home for Lunch?"
Uh-huh.
Um, is the book that I had came out. And then I also had one of my other books was Living on a Military Base.
Okay.
So those were the three that I had. Did You Come Home for Lunch was actually written as my experience in the military and my son being 3 years old as military dependent. I had actually been gone for 14 days, temporary duty. And when I came home, even though he saw my plane go and all of that kind of stuff, and he saw it coming in, he saw all that. But as he was playing on the floor, mom was sitting in the chair, and the old baby gates, and you've probably seen them.
Right.
It was in between the doorway. It was in an apartment complex on the second story, and I came up the steps, and I looked at my son, and my son said, "Did you come home for lunch?" And I was like, "No." He had no clue, because at 3 years old, they don't know a lot of time,
Right.
and so that's how that came
That's
about. But
cute.
I figured that, and I've enjoyed writing. I enjoyed writing that book. That's the one that took 9 months to go through, and I mentioned to the illustrator the way I wanted it illustrated, and they did it that way. And a lot of times when I go to schools, I ask the children, I'm like, "Do you know somebody in this room that might be in this book?" And they're all looking around, and I said, and then somebody will say, "It's you." I'm like, "Yes, it is. It is me."
That's adorable. Oh,
And so, Living on a Military Base was written about one of my older sons. I have three sons and a daughter. It was actually my youngest son. I wrote it about him, but it was about our experiences in Okinawa when I was
mm,
stationed at Kadena Air Base. and about going through 9 typhoons, one
Oh
one
boy.
month 1 month of water rationing, and it was actually made to really to tell people, children who are not military, what it's like to be on a military base, what it's like to be in a foreign country. And so it also has different facilities. It talks about, what kind of facilities do you find on a military base, like the barber shop and the theater
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So it really gives them a lot of information about that. And then it goes on to talk about how the progression of his mom being in the had been in the Navy and me being in the Air Force, and then him actually progressing on and later on in life becoming an adult and going in the National Guard. So it's really a lot in there uh,
Okay.
in the story itself.
What's the age for that book? What's the age limit?
So the age limit for I mean, third, fourth, fifth can read
Okay.
it. It's not really long chapters, so it really depends on their reading level, that kind of thing. But third, fourth, and fifth, I typically have a lot of children that pick it up around that age, but it can be younger. It just depends on what their reading level is. And Brains Over Brawn, that's like I said, it's fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Talks
Okay.
about that. It's really geared for more of that age level than below fifth grade. So I mean, it's not
Okay.
not that a fourth grader couldn't read it. It just depends on what their level is again. So
Right. Right.
reading levels are so different
Definitely.
anymore. Some children are not on reading level. Some are reading higher, some are reading lower. So you really can't like pinpoint it and say this
Sure.
is exactly fourth grade, but that kind of thing. So
Sure. Do you have a section that maybe you could read for us out of one of those three books?
sure. This is called Our Side Trips. This is a part that I had a reader like didn't understand why I put my grandfather in there. My grandfather was a chain gang guard. He was in
Oh,
World War
wow.
II, and he also had come up to New Hampshire from South Carolina, and so that for me that was a distraction, and that's what I was trying to explain to one of the readers. Had put a review that they had wished that I didn't put that in there, and I put it in there for a reason. So it says this is called Our Side Trips, Chapter 11. I had to figure out how to bypass bullying. To distract me from bullying at school, Dad took us on small trips. One time we drove to Exeter, New Hampshire. Exeter was exciting because it contrasted with small and rural Peace, New Hampshire. It had power plants and nuclear plants in town. We
Oh,
drove to the airport in Boston, Massachusetts during another trip. I could not figure out why we went to the airport. I believed my grandfather was coming and we had to go pick him up. I would often experience car sickness when I was young. I felt ill in the airport bathroom after we stopped. After leaving, I caught sight of a popular football player who also acted in commercials. As I saw him, he was running fast through the airport. Small family trips were a distraction, but it was still too hard to forget about the kids who bullied me. I could
mm.
not produce a way to put an end to their actions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So a lot of that was, intention for me was to help me be distracted from all
Right.
of what was going on because it was a constant daily thing that was
Sure.
happening. And of course, Peace, New Hampshire is not a real place. It's made up. So,
Okay.
Exeter is, but Peace is not.
Okay. All right. What was the most challenging part of writing Brains over Brawn? Because it's hard writing a memoir and trying to get personal feelings out there and yet not being too transparent. It can be deeply personal. So, what was the most challenging part of putting your life on paper, basically, at that time?
I think realizing that, at a younger age, I was kind of being a bully in sixth grade, not making excuses for why it happened. There was a lot going on in my life at the time. So I don't know if that had a lot to do with it. But then another bully came on even bigger than me.
Oh,
So then I kind of stopped after that when it came to that. Unfortunately, my sixth, seventh, and eighth wasn't that great as far as, getting into trouble and stuff like that. But once I got out of the eighth grade, things started changing. I started getting into junior ROTC and things kind of, I became more disciplined and things of that nature. And a lot of that bullying stopped. So I didn't have a lot of problems with that so much. But it was the challenging, challenging to put yourself out there. At first, when I first wrote the book, I thought, well, why do I want to put out being a bully? Because I want people to realize that, sometimes in life, adults, children are being bullies and they don't realize it,
Mm,
and those kind of things. And so I wanted to do it from, at first I was just going to do it from the perspective of being bullied. But then as I thought more about it, talked to different people, I felt like, hey, I'm going to add that in there because I want the bullies to realize that, this is not good. Bullying is not good. And so I had been on both sides of the, or on opposite
yeah,
sides of the coin rather. And so that kind of thing. And I wanted to kind of do it from both sides.
yeah. The title Brains Over Brawn should be encouraging to kids who are experiencing the same problem. So, what are you wanting kids to take away from this book? They're not going to magically change overnight, but
Right.
what would you like them to take away from it?
One is they need to understand that they're smarter when it comes to bullying. They can report it, certainly report it. I mean, those kind of things. Going through a lot of bully prevention things that they
Mm,
do at schools, the programs they have at school. Talking to their parents about bullying, because unfortunately, I waited until I was an adult to really tell about being bullied a lot. And so it's something that I think that children should report right away.
mm,
I think that there's so many different distractions out there with media and programs and stuff that show bullying, and it's starting to be acceptable in a lot of ways, and it shouldn't be acceptable. That's the whole point. Whether it's a child or adult, I want this to be a resource. That's why I have the resources in the back so that the parents and child can go over this and explore that. And now we didn't have like cyberbullying and a lot of that stuff that's going on now. So there's all kinds of types of bullying, name calling and physical kind of things and cyberbullying and stuff like that, and
right.
messages and chats and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
uh,
it's getting worse with
hmm
not having to show your face when you're saying bad things about people is
absolutely.
encouraging for some of those awful bullies. But um, were there particular moments in your stories from life that you just definitely had to put in specific times when you were being bullied that still stick in your brain and you had to put it in there?
Well, I actually had to put the teacher in there. I didn't say the teacher's name.
Hmm.
The teacher had actually passed away. I don't know if it was the year that I published it or it was after that.
Oh,
I didn't want to put the school at. I didn't want to identify the school, so I made up a school name.
yeah,
I didn't want to identify the teacher. That's why I only said Mrs. C. That kind of thing. So that for me, that was very personal because I didn't want to put a bad light on the school itself,
right.
and the place. And so I chose to do that in that way.
Okay. Did you ever, of course, you made the fictitious name of the school and probably gave different kids fictitious names, but did you ever once think that you might have repercussions from it or, hesitation about how others were going to take this, accept it?
Not really. I mean, obviously, if I identified the school and stuff like that, I think I might have had repercussions. I don't know. I don't certainly want to do that, but I wanted to tell the story, and the whole purpose of it is to really to explain to children that they are smart, that they can overcome the bullying. They just need to outwit the
Mhm.
person bullying them, and so
I need to ask you, do you have siblings?
I have a half brother, but I hardly ever see him. So, but
Okay, I was
other than
just
that, I
going to
don't.
ask if they knew or some of your other real close friends knew you were being bullied as a child, and yet they didn't speak up either.
No, I was pretty much on my own
Oh,
in New Hampshire, so I didn't really have a lot of other people or friends or people to talk to about it. So, if I had known my grandfather, if I had told him, I know him, he would be down at the school in a minute. So, he
sounds
and he
like you
was
had a close relationship with him.
Yeah, he was a pretty big, huge guy. I mean, it can be intimidating,
Yeah,
by his size, but he was a great guy. He really
yeah.
was. and I should have told him because he would have been, but I knew that it would get back to my parents at the time, and I didn't want to mess their plans up for their careers and stuff like that, what they were doing, and a lot of it was on me.
That's crazy. You know, kids do
Mhm.
not want to tell anybody about being bullied. And
Mhm.
that's crazy.
And
But,
it's happening. It's happening more and more and more. I see it in the
right.
news. I hear it in stories. I hear people talking about it. I've seen it myself at a grandparents' event at a school. I saw, a child bullying another child that had special needs
Oh,
coming into the cafeteria and that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's not okay. We have got to stop bullying.
right.
It,
Right.
it's
Definitely.
it, and start respecting people.
Yeah. Well, this is rather an obvious, I mean, the question probably doesn't even need to be asked, but I would like to ask, who's your audience for these three different books? Now you said they're fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth for the
Mhm.
Brains Over Brawn.
Mhm.
Who else would be your audience?
Yeah, so for the living on the military base, of course, like I said, third, fourth, fifth, and sometimes second graders even grab it. Did you come home for lunch? Did you come home for lunch and living on a military base are a lot of military dependent books that I have on different sites like patriotrights.com,
Okay.
which are only promote veteran authors, and I do a lot with month of the military child, where I actually donate some books to
Ah,
military dependents and that kind of thing. So, really, the audience is a lot of the family support centers can get involved with the books. I've been out at the base exchanges locally, and a lot of military people have picked up the books to really talk about how moving affects their child.
sure.
And that kind of thing. So those two books have helped, and that kind of thing. And then I have another book, which we're not talking about today, but it's called I Was Just About, and it's about moving. And it talks about how moving is difficult for a child to move from place to place. And
Okay.
so those are kind of really the three that focus on the military. And even some that are not military can pick up the books
Sure.
and see what it's like to be in a military child.
Is that about moving? Is that a nonfiction?
They're all fiction. They're all
Oh,
fiction
they're all
books.
fiction.
Yeah, the
Okay.
moving is just about a boy that, and I was just about, which basically just is talking about that. So really, it's the audience can be a lot. Really, family support kind of networks, um, schools that have children that are military. And what I try to do when I'm doing an author event is I include the non-military too, because I talk to them and I say, look, how many children are, their parents, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandmas, grandpas, how many have been in the military? And they all raise their hands. How many of you have parents that go traveling a lot, that kind of thing, or in a business or oil wells or whatever? And so they raise their hands. So I never not include those that are not
Sure.
in the military. So
Right. Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your artwork. Who, how did you decide on your book covers?
okay, so the illustrations for Did You Come Home for Lunch? Those were actually illustrations that I came up with the
Okay.
C-130 and the child holding an airplane, and he's in his mom's arms, me in the military uniform, that kind of thing. So that was all ideas about the plane being on the runway and all that, and making sure the barriers were in the right spot on the runway. And
Uh-huh.
and there was a time that I had to actually get the illustrator to change it a couple of times because the barriers were in the wrong spot on the runway and that kind of thing. But it worked out. The living on a military base and Brains Over Brawn were actually from some illustrators that were on Fiverr.com.
Hmm.
Some vendors that were on there. Some of the pictures in Brains Over Brawn were actual pictures that I have of my grandfather. So that was for Brains Over Brawn. Living on a military base had some graphics, some licensed graphics, but it also had some actual pictures that were in there for my son and stuff like that.
Okay.
The ranks that I used in living on a military base, I actually had to get permission from the Navy Trademark Office and the Air Force Trademark Office in Washington, D.C., or wherever they're located near there, and get permission to actually publish them in there and go through those trademark offices, even though the ranks were actually expired. I did have to put that disclosure in there.
Yeah, you have to be careful with those trademarks.
Yes, you
That's for
do.
sure. So what or who encouraged you to actually self-publish rather than going traditional publishing?
Well, I know self-publishing has been a lot easier to self-publish today than it has been. Back in the day when I was younger in the elementary schools and a teacher's aide, a lot of it seemed to be more traditional, that kind of
Hmm.
route. I know with traditional, you can get denied a lot. You have to do query letters and all that stuff, and there's no guarantees on it. I like the self-publishing myself. I have been through several publishing companies, through Archway Publishing and Palmetto Publishing, and so they're still considered self-published books, but I had help from the publishing company to help me in those different methods of editing and formatting and illustrations and things of that nature. So, which was very helpful.
Sure. Yeah. I understand that nowadays it's traditional. So many of these traditional publishers have joined each other. And so it takes like 4 to 7 years to get a book published
Mhm.
through a traditional publisher. So I think that's what has encouraged a lot of self-publishing. And now these traditional publishers have their own wing of self-publishing. So they'll
Mhm.
help you publish it. They realize there's a huge market there of self-publishers. So,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I really enjoy that. And I'm also looking at next year. I've got a military book that I want to work on. I've already done the pre-writing on it. I've got to do some sprucing up on it, editing it, and probably will go through a hybrid publisher maybe next year,
mhm,
which does the traditional and the self-publishing together.
sure.
So that's in the talks, and we'll see how that goes
Good.
as the story goes along.
Good. Okay, let's think about some advice for writers. You're a writer of over 12 books now.
Mhm.
So I've worked with one lady who just wanted to publish for her own family. So she used even though I helped her publish it, she printed through, a company, a printer here in San
Mhm.
Antonio. But most of them want to get it out there on Amazon. So, what advice do you give a first-time writer, especially one who wants to get it out on Amazon?
Well, there's several ways you can do it. There's all kinds of ways actually on the internet for different companies that can put things out for you. Going through Ingram Spark is a big deal. Getting worldwide distribution and also through Amazon as well, through Amazon KDP is a way to do it. I also have audiobooks out there. And as well as ebooks. I use an ebook company called Drafted Digital, and that's that for those that like to do that. Um, so my advice to authors is really, first of all, is have a purpose. What I call the 6 P's of being an author. One is have a passion. Have a
Mhm.
passion for what you do. Number two is have a purpose. That's important. Know why you're writing a book, and why you want to be an author. Or, what is the definition of success? Is it only about how many sales you get? Is it about achievement? Is it about fame, accomplishment? What is your definition of success?
Right.
Number three is persistence, being persistent every single day on something in your writing career, whether it be, working with somebody to do a book trailer, something like that, or whatever. Uh, Understanding pitfalls. So really, passion, purpose, persistence. Understand you're going to have pitfalls. You will have pitfalls. That will happen.
True.
You may not make $1 million on it, if that's what you're looking for. Um, Understand you have to have patience. So number five is patience. Things don't happen overnight. You
Right.
you have to work it. And then lastly is possibilities. Know that there's so many possibilities out there. When I started in 2020, I never imagined that I would have a book in a vending machine. I never imagined I'd be in a kid magazine. I never imagined I'd be even on a podcast. I never imagined that. And over the years, little things have happened to move in the right direction. I never realized that I'd win in some competitions. I never realized that one of my books would be in the top 10 best children's fiction sold in Oklahoma last year. I never knew that. So really, it's the 6 P's: passion, purpose, persistence, pitfalls, patience, and possibilities. Those are the things that I look at.
That's awesome. I love that. That's awesome. Looking back at writing these, especially these three books, what has it um, taught you about yourself? Have you made any discoveries about yourself and about your storytelling abilities?
Well, I tend to be a perfectionist, which is not good all the
Not
time.
good.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I have actually, I'm the kind that I see things and I want it to be a certain way. And if it's not that way, I will, I'll go back and re-edit and do things. It took me a book about over, let's see, I think when I made Anna's Amazing Alaskan Adventure, it was over a year of going through feedback through a writing association, Oklahoma Writers Federation,
Uh-huh.
going through some judges, editing 4 or 5 times. I think I don't even probably 9 or 10 actually. I probably got up to 9 or 10 times I've edited it, and then I finally at some point I said, okay, it's time to publish it. So I'm very particular when it goes on to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, those kind of things. I want people to understand that I have a mission, and my main mission is literacy, learning, and legacy. And then secondly, my mission is to make a difference in the lives of children. If I've done those things, then I've done what I'm supposed to do, and that's my mission.
That's awesome. It's very important to have a mission and to work towards that because I tell people that I work with, I say, you don't do this, don't publish a book to get rich. It's not going to happen.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
well, Mark, now what? Another book?
I'm actually working on another bullying book with a second grade teacher. I was a second grade teacher, and we have a book coming out. I don't know when it'll be out, maybe January, February, it depends. The illustrations and the actual setup is already set up. There's a few characters that are being added in on some scenes. They're actually in the sketching mode right now. Pretty soon I'll have another Zoom call with my illustrator and the other author, the co-author, and it's kind of neat because the illustrator is actually an occupational therapist who's
Uh,
also running it by some children for some kind of beta reading to see how they like it.
Good idea.
They actually want, once the book is published, they want to get a copy of it. And I've had a principal that I did an author event with who actually said, "Let me know when you get it. We'll invite you back." So because I do a lot of theme related books. I don't write a lot of books about animals and dinosaurs, even though I know that they're popular. But I can, when a principal asks me, I can give them a copy of the themes that I have in my books, and then what we talk about at the very end of it. And I usually have a discussion at the end. I also allow them to ask questions about what it's like to be an author.
Mm.
I try to get them not to ask questions about, what's your birth date and all this other stuff, but that kind of thing. But I've read to over 1,000 children, so
Oh,
not only virtually but also in person. And I just enjoy doing it. It makes me
yeah.
feel important to get the word out about
Yeah.
themes and literacy and problem solving and moving and strategies and
Sure.
bullying and those kind of things.
Agreed.
And then I also try to ensure that I have the literary elements in there as well,
Okay.
because that's very important, like the repetition and the rhyming and things and things of that nature. I try to ensure that I do that. And I really learned a lot from Tammy Sayer. She's an author in Oklahoma who's, I think, written over 29 books, and I've learned a lot from just listening to her training on the way things should be. And so I do have mentors out there. I have a Michigan author that's a mentor, and that kind of thing. She also does my website, and so I'm really excited. Diana Catherine Penn on pagespromotions.com, and she does a lot of good things and opens up a lot of doors for me. And I'm hoping if we get enough writers that I'll be in a fourth anthology in January or February, whenever it
Ah,
comes out.
very
So
nice.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I was looking at that. You gave that out on the Facebook page.
Yes, yes,
Looking at the
yes. Uh-huh.
possibility of. doing that.
Yeah,
So,
so I've been on several virtual calls with some authors in the past. I've done some for 30 days. We did a couple of Februarys, I think it was a couple of years in a row. I've done some virtual author events, and we did this for 30 days,
mm,
and then I read on certain nights, and it was just a lot of fun. It really
yeah,
was, and I got to meet a lot of authors.
sure.
Just so many different authors out there that I've got to meet.
That's awesome.
And I
Great.
try to do collaborations with them as well, the ones that are locally and stuff like that. And of course, I was supposed to be in the book festival a couple of times, but I got sick and I wasn't able to go. So, but I didn't get to meet up with some other authors like
Yeah,
I had hoped. But,
yeah,
those are the things that happen. Those are pitfalls.
yep. Oh, yeah, yeah. On my channel, besides doing author interviews, I like to give my people memoir writing prompts so that they can get the creative juices going in their own brain to write their words down.
Hmm.
So do you have a prompt maybe you can share with my audience?
Sure. What is the worst vacation you've ever been on?
The worst vacation. That's a good one. Oh, you always want to write about your good vacations, but your
Hmm.
worst one.
What is your worst one? The ones that, everything happened, the plane's delayed,
Yeah.
the hotel was not what you expected. It was a Motel 6 and it should have been a Hilton or something like that, or some other big,
Uh,
giant hotel or whatever. It was just a small motel or of some sort. It ended up it was advertised as more than what really was, that kind of thing.
I can think of two in particular right now. One, we went to Ireland and Scotland, and the minute we left San Antonio, they lost our luggage, and we didn't get it till 2 weeks after we got back home. And we were in
Hmm.
Ireland and Scotland for 2 weeks
Yeah,
without luggage.
we've had
So,
that happen. We had our luggage actually disappear from when we were on a cruise at one time, and our luggage got somebody else picked up our luggage, and we didn't
uh,
get our luggage for. We didn't have 2 weeks, but it was like 5 hours.
yeah.
We were on a tour after during that time. We missed part of the tour. The bus didn't wait for us, and because we were still
Oh
looking for
dear.
our luggage,
Oh
and
dear.
somebody picked up our luggage, and they finally took it to the hotel. So. Luckily, we were lucky because, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will get all of your contact information from you and
Mhm.
put it in my show notes down below. So, is there anything else you wanted to share before we say goodbye?
Well, just to say, please have the reader look at my blogs and interviews and news articles on www.markmccraw.com. I do a lot of updating on events, blogs, interviews, news
Okay.
articles, that kind of thing. It's now been switched over to Wix, which is I was on a different website, and they kind of started shutting down the website, so I had to move everything, the domain and everything over to Wix, and so they can see a lot of updated information.
Okay.
So,
Good. 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 And I will get all of that from you. So,
sure,
well,
absolutely.
thank you, Mark. I appreciate you spending the time with me. This has been fun getting to
Thank
know
you for
about
having
you
me.
and your books.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Okay. You take care.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mark. He is an outstanding writer with a message for not only the children of veterans or of dependents of those who are in the military service today, but a lot of his stories, I would have to say all of them, have a message for children anywhere. Going through things like bullying, that to me was a very interesting topic for him to take up and to take it from his own life. Uh, that would be difficult, I think, to write, but I hope you enjoyed it. So remember that you do have this story to tell. You have your own memoir to tell. But within that memoir, you have a lot of other little stories that could possibly become a children's book someday. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like. Hopefully you've already subscribed. If not, click that little subscribe button, and then you will be notified every time I bring out another video like this. So until next time, I'm Judy Shearwaters. You have a story to tell. Let me help you tell it.